in your bed and grab him a coat. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I am your host, Brennan Tassif. Format of the show is I'm a sober alcoholic now. I like to talk about drinking stories, reminisce about the old war days, have a good time. A lot of times it'll be by myself, but more often than not, I will have a guest. And today is no different. I am joined by new comedian to the Jacksonville scene, Morgan Gallo.
Hey.
What's up, Morgan?
Not much. Did you have your intro music? I really like the intro music.
Yeah. I put that on in post.
Oh, perfect.
Shout out to my co-host to my sports podcast, Cheers from the Press Box, Headphone Joe, no O, no E in the phone. Check out his album TV. He is the designer and creator of the intro music.
Amazing. Talented, brilliant, incredible.
It's good, right?
Show-stopping, yes.
He actually listens to the show, and he was just like, I'm sick of you not having intro music, and I'm a musician, so he did it. We were trying to get him to come to the show tomorrow because he lives in Georgia.
Oh, okay, dope.
But he lives in Atlanta, and he's like, I'm not driving 4 hours for you.
Ooh, that's
fun. I was
fun.
like, all right, I get it.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
Appreciate you, man.
I totally understand. Anyway, Morgan,
Hi.
welcome into the program.
Thank you.
So, Morgan, you are a comedian here in Jacksonville, Florida. Or no, you live in
comedian.
St. Augustine, excuse me.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, St. Augustine. You are an aspiring comedian in St. Augustine. That's got to be weird with the shutdowns and everything. You haven't even really met any of the other St. Augustine comics, have you?
No. I've met a few of the guys that kind of go back and forth between like Daytona and Jax, but
Topher?
Yeah, Topher, Nick, amazing guys. I haven't done anything really in St. Augustine. I've done a few open mics that are kind of like really like music open mics, you know, and then they let you do a few jokes and ruin the show. But like, it's fun. I mean, I like the guys, and I'm mostly in, weirdly enough, I'm mostly in like Jax, Daytona, Orlando, Gainesville, like never in St. Augustine, which is a bummer, but. Yeah,
well, they're, I know Aaron Eads, Nick DiStefano, and Courtney Olson are going to start Paper Route again, which is the best show in town. That'll be in St. Augustine at Paper Route Clothing Company, January 12th. That's a Tuesday. Everybody come out to that. That starts at 8 o'clock. I'm going to that show. I'm not on that show, but I'm definitely
I'll be going to support for sure.
Yeah, that show is so much fun. I got all my best clips from the Paper Route show that I did there.
Nice.
So let's just, because I don't know you that well, and I know the listeners don't know you that well. We're going to get into some of your drinking stories. You did send me quite the list, 2 stories, which is...
I know, because I'm just so wild.
It's extensive. But I did want to ask you, I find your story very interesting because you started doing stand-up kind of in the midst of the pandemic, which I think is crazy, but you've been getting a lot of work.
I'm very lucky.
I just think you're persistent. I mean, you just ask.
Yeah, I do just ask. Yeah, I mean, you can't say you want something and then not go after it is kind of the way I see the world.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because I remember we were talking outside of the CBD Cafe Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock, CBD and Kava Bar off Old St. Augustine Road in Jacksonville. But I remember it was me, you, and Marcus, and I think it was the first time I ever met you.
Yeah, probably.
And you were like, yeah, I'm doing this show and that show, and I was giving you shit because I'm the one who normally goes to Gainesville with Marcus, and then you were doing that show. And then you turned to me and you go, you know, you really just got to put yourself out there and ask. And I wanted to punch you in the dick.
I'm like this little fresh. I'm like, you know what, Brennan?
I wanted to be like, you know, I've been doing this 10 years, right?
Dude, no, I just, I think it's a good reminder though. Like, I think, you know, like I used to be a dancer and people would come into the dance scene in Colorado and remind me, like, sometimes you just have to love it. Like, it's not always a competition. It's just enjoying yourself and having fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing is that, and that's actually kind of the point I wanted to make is over time, it's easy to kind of get jaded. And I know, I know the listeners know the story about I started doing comedy when I was 22 in South Florida, and then with my drinking and drug addiction and everything, it kind of went off the rails, and my comedy was terrible, and then I would barely do it. And then when I came back in about 3 years ago, it was basically like starting over. Like I still had some material and stuff, but it's, it's like dance for you. Like, if you take a break long enough, it's like, oh, I don't.
Oh, of course.
And like sports, for anybody who's ever played sports in your life, it's like.
Have you played sports?
Yeah, I actually.
You never talk about it.
I played college football.
Oh, really? Oh, is that why the jersey's hanging up on the fucking closet?
in the studio. I got to get a frame for it.
Oh my god!
But it's the same thing. Anybody who's ever, even if you played sports in high school, you'll watch the NFL and be like, "Man, I could do that." It's like, no, you can't.
No, yeah.
Especially after you stop playing for a while, you probably couldn't even catch a ball thrown by like a real quarterback.
Hell no,
so
no.
it's but it's refreshing to have someone who's brand new, came into it in the middle of the pandemic, so the pecking order's all fucked up. Because a lot of the comics that I know aren't even doing shows. There's certain comics that are doing like one show a month, and these are regular touring comedians, some of which I've had on the podcast and stuff. But there's names we bring up to you outside of certain shows, and you're just kind of like, who?
Yeah, and that's it bums me out because I learn by watching and doing. So like if I don't have a show one night, which is like. I don't do shows all the time. Like I just went on this kind of 1 month long run where it seemed like almost every weekend I had like one or two going on. Yeah. But like I will go and watch someone because sometimes just sitting in the audience and soaking it up feels so good and being like, this is what I want to do. And watching someone kill it, I learn so much more just by like watching Crespo to me is like my favorite because he doesn't. There's to me there's no like I'm so nervous like I gotta write out my stuff. He's just like I'm gonna kill this shit every time.
Well, and he's I mean the listeners know Marcus. We've had him on a few times. I love Marcus. I've said this before, but Marcus, Brian Ziola, Christina Shriver, and Chris Buck. When I first came back into comedy, I had known Buck and Marcus from before because I had done comedy in Jacksonville before. I had fallen off the rails real bad. And so I knew them, and they kind of like welcomed me back. Marcus more than anybody.
Yeah.
And then Christina, I had gotten introduced to when I first came back, and her and Brian were the first ones to start booking me on shows.
Oh, awesome!
And it was very much like, oh no, like he's done it. Like I had to knock the rust off, but they trusted me, and that meant more to me than anything else. But it's interesting to sit with you and talk outside of shows and stuff because it's very much like, oh, you don't know Buck, you don't know Ziola, you don't know Christina, and it's so weird because Marcus is the link to all of that, but at the same time, it's like you only know Marcus as far as the comics who have been doing it for a long time. Because I don't include myself in that category, but it's so refreshing and crazy at the same time when you're like, oh yeah, you just got to ask because. You get to a point sometimes where you're just like, no, I don't want to ask or I shouldn't have to ask.
Totally.
Like, what the fuck is going on? And then to meet you and to talk to you about it, and it's like, oh, yeah, wait, that is all I have to do is ask.
Yeah, and it is like, it's one of those things where like, first of all, Brian Ziola is a fucking monster and I love him. And I watched him once at Eclipse and I was like, oh my God, I hope I get to work with this guy like once in my entire life. I would be
hilarious.
Satisfied. And Christina Shriver is one of those people that like, I follow her on Twitter. Like I know who she is, but she's probably like, who is this moppy headed little girl walking around trying to do comedy? But I love like, hearing about those people because I'm just like in anticipation of meeting them. So excited. But
because you've met Daisy, haven't you?
No, and she's another one that people talk. You know what I mean? It's so funny because it's like like I know she was on your podcast, and there's so many people that I'm like
funniest in the 904. She just won that.
Oh my God, amazing, amazing! Like there's so many cool people out there, and that's like something that I always worry about. Is you mentioned the pecking order. As someone who's so new, I never, ever want to be one of those people that's like, oh, like, why is she getting these opportunities? Why is she? And it's like, well, I'm just emailing people. I'm just submitting tapes.
Well, and that's the thing is, full disclosure, like, it's bizarre because I mean, and the listeners know because I talk about this all the fucking time, but I had gotten to the point in Jacksonville where I wanted to expand and Savannah, my girlfriend, loves New York City. Always wanted to move there. We've gotten into an argument on this podcast about whose idea it was to move up there. So that's the thing it's frustrating because you see how much work gets done just sitting outside of a show.
Absolutely.
I literally told you when I first met you like 2 months ago or a month ago, I was like, man, I was so worried about booking stuff in October that I didn't think to book like November, December, January.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. I was so worried about booking stuff in November. I didn't book December and January. And that's when you said like, oh, well, you just got to, reach out to people. And then that's when I was like, I'm going to fucking kill this person.
Which like rightfully so. Like who am I to be saying that?
No, but it's true. But that's the thing is like, so then fast forward 2 or 3 weeks, just hanging out outside of different shows that I have been on or that I went to go see somebody on. Because I'm a student of comedy, like you're saying. Like I love to watch comedy before anything else. And all of a sudden I have now like 12 shows in the next like 4
and that's
weeks.
awesome,
And it's
dude.
like, but it's just like you're saying, it's like you just have to be available. And that's why I personally for comedy was so excited to move to New York because I was I went up there.
Mecca.
We went up there for a trip, and just in the 4 nights we were there, we spent every night at either the Stand or the Cellar. And you just get to talking to people outside, but they're not regular people.
Yeah,
you're not like I love Marcus and Buck and all those guys, but like when you think about it, it's like that scale, but times a million when you're talking to like Tom Rhodes and David Tell and stuff,
absolutely.
and it's like but that's just what you do because you're outside, you're smoking a cigarette, and they're smoking, and it's like, hey man, I really like your stuff, and then you just get to talking, and so that's why I was so excited because I see what can happen with just like what you've proven to all of us in the middle of a pandemic is that all you have
all of us meaning like you and Crespo.
Yeah, like as far as this podcast is concerned, that is all of us. But you've proven that whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, if you can just talk to people, like a lot of times they'll give you a shot, and if you fuck it up, you fuck it up, and then you don't get another shot.
Yeah.
But at least a lot of times people will give you a shot, especially if you have someone like Crespo who can vouch for you, which has been awesome for you
absolutely.
because you're just all of a sudden, because I follow you on social media, all of a sudden it's just like, I got a show here, I got a show there. And I was like, what is happening?
And like, I will say, like, there's, I think about this a lot because there are so many people that I've met that are so talented. And I'm always like, what is the harm in emailing a guy and saying, hey dude, I got a type 5, here's my YouTube link, I'm really looking to bring some energy to a guest spot, would love to work with you, please let me know, like, you know what I mean? And because the worst that they're gonna do is read it and ignore you, say no, or never read it, and then you reach out again. And for me, there's been a lot of times when like it can be easier to get on a showcase that then gets you on something else because someone else saw you.
Yeah,
like,
that's what it's...
You know what I mean? Yeah, like I've gotten on shows or showcases, I should say, that, some random person, like I showed up to a show and he was like, hey, do you want to do 5 since you're here? And I was like, woefully underprepared, got up, killed it, which should not have happened in Daytona. And then a guy who runs a room in Orlando was like, yeah, like I'll give you a spot. Like because he had seen me randomly at a show that I wasn't even supposed to be on, but I showed up because I wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just got to do that. Like you just got to do the drive, pay for the gas, support people, and get over your own self, which is tough.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is because I love comedy so much. I like to just go, like you said, I like to just go to shows. Right. And then a lot of times, like if you know someone on the show or if somebody's there, they'll be like, hey, do you want to get up too? And you're like, oh, awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think the big thing too is that the difference between what you and I are talking about, because that's something you and I both do. I'm a little more jaded about it now, just, as long as I've been doing it. But I still do it because I love comedy.
Yeah.
And the difference between that and then people who are like, no, I'm not going to do shows unless people call me or book me, or I'm not going to go out. Like, and I get it, especially right now in the middle of a pandemic. I totally understand that, but I don't know. It's this weird thing. And I talked to Stephen Baker about it on this podcast where comedy...
Who, by the way, hilarious, amazing, love him. Like, incredible. Like,
if you say that about everyone we bring up,
no, I
then
just like there's so many.
It loses its value.
Oh, there's so many good people here, and I just
Baker's
oh my
hilarious.
God,
Baker.
I love him.
I have a lot of people on that I love on this podcast, but Baker was the one because he's just you never see it coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just talks.
Yeah,
he just talks.
He kills me because he'll say it with like the same tone and inflection as he's talking because me and Marcus are both very high energy people, and you, especially to an extent, are a very high energy person. So like you can see it coming because we'll be like,
yeah, which is gotta
we
work
give
on
it away.
that.
We're like, oh my god. But Baker would just be like, yeah, totally, yeah, yep. And then we had sex in this abandoned hotel, and yeah, that was the night. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly,
what happened?
exactly.
So he kills me when he's on the show, but he made a really good point, and I've been repeating it ever since he made it. But he said comedy's like karaoke. Where there's people who go and take it very seriously and think they're going to get discovered and they know every word to every song and they take it. It's like a job for them. Like people would call it a hobby, but for them it's a job. And then there's people who like to go to the bar, get drunk, and read the lyrics off the prompter and just have a good time with their friends.
Right. Exactly.
And I never thought of it that way until he brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much of the former versus the latter. I'm very much, no, we're like, this is serious. Like, there is no plan B. Like, this is life.
Yeah.
And so when people, like, I would get so frustrated when people would be like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing anything this month, maybe next month. And I'm like, but that's not how this works.
How dare you?
But, like,
how dare you?
And now with, being in the midst of a pandemic, it's different. Obviously, my view on that has changed because there are people who are, risks and they live with family members and stuff. So I get that. But what I'm talking about is before all this, like people would just be like, yeah, I'll do a show here and there. And then it's like, yeah, but that's not, like you said earlier, like that's not comedy. That's, that's something else. That's like,
yeah,
I don't know. So,
and I like full disclosure, obviously, no idea what I'm even doing.
Yeah. None of us do.
I'm just in it because it's fun and because it's something that I feel in my heart is like what I'm supposed to do. And how weird is it to think that I don't even know what it's like to do comedy outside of a global pandemic?
Yeah, that's
do you know what I mean?
bizarre,
Yeah, like I have no idea what it's like to go to Rain Dogs on a Monday night.
Yeah.
I have no idea like what people do in, you know what I mean, like on weekends. Like I've never performed for a room that was like packed shoulder to shoulder people. It's always 6 feet apart, masks, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy.
Well, it definitely changes the vibe when it's like that. And because I've done those shows, I actually got an email from a listener. Shout out, Lindsay. What's up? I had on one of the shows.
You got it, Lindsay.
I mentioned how I have this email that I pay for, but nobody ever emails me because they just direct message me on stuff.
Oh.
So she sent me an email, and in the subject line it said, "This podcast is offensive," and I was, it was like irresponsible
Lindsay.
and offensive or something like that. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
She probably spells her name like Linzee.
No, not at all. But I opened it and she was like, "Just kidding. I just wanted to get your attention." And then
amazing.
But she wrote a really nice email, and she had mentioned that she was a regular at Rain Dogs in the audience and loved to watch the comedy and stuff. And it's really cool that she, is listening now to me talking to a lot of local comics. But it's just that environment of Rain Dogs it's bizarre because like when I did a show there once, I was doing a show. They had Daniel Van Kirk in town. And I remember I invited everybody. This was like 6 months after I had came back. So I was still like, okay, this is like the first show.
Yeah.
And I invited everybody I knew, called in every favor, did that whole thing. Like if I've ever covered a shift for you or closed for you
better come out.
You better fucking be there. And I ended up, room only holds like 40 or 50 sitting, like 60 or 70 standing. And I remember we had people like crammed in there. Obviously, this is pre-pandemic, everybody.
Yes.
This is March of like 2018 or 18. But we were packed and everyone came out to see me. And just what you're describing, like when I went to get up, when Brian called me up to the stage was shaking.
Oh my God.
Like there's not a ton of people, but it's so packed in.
Yeah.
And it's an old, low ceilings, everything. And I'll never forget that was the moment where because I loved comedy and I've always done comedy. But like I said, in the past, my comedy was garbage because I was drunk all the time. Like it was shit. And I had done well, but I had never like crushed, like when they talk about crushing.
Oh,
like you hear other comics talk about absolutely destroying a room. And I had never done that up to that point. Like I said, I've had good sets, but never like, and I, like most comedians, I'm my biggest critic. Like if I didn't destroy, then I'm like, that was fucking I bombed.
Yeah, exactly. There's no in between.
Yeah, at all. But I remember I got up there and it was shaking and I like couldn't catch my breath. Like I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. It felt like I had this set rehearsed. Like I had the set down.
Mm-hmm.
So like we've talked about before, I wasn't even thinking about the set because I just had it.
Oh
So
yeah. It was just in
doing
your
it.
subconscious. You were just talking.
And I was just doing the set, and it seemed like I couldn't do anything wrong. It seemed like everything I said, even if I fucked up, like
it's just
yelling
like
and
roaring, rolling laughter.
And I remember when I said goodbye, the stage was shaking even more when I went to get off.
Oh
and
my
I
God.
like almost cried, and I was like,
I would cry.
I was like, that was the turning point for me, because I've always wanted to move to New York and I've always pursued comedy, but that was the turning point where I was like, oh, I could do this isn't just a pipe dream anymore. Like this is something I could do, because that's the whole thing with comedy is, and most anything that has to do with the arts is you could be as good as you want in your head, but if you don't get that validation from the outside, then it's just in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came off that stage, I was like, oh, even though these are my friends, a lot of people here, even though a lot of these people have heard these jokes before, that wasn't artificial what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, that was real laughter and real
those are real
excitement.
reactions, real human emotions.
And it's so crazy to me because you have never been in a room where that could happen.
No.
With all the restrictions and all the precautions and everything. Which has got to be... I mean, I guess it's like, hey, do you miss Italy? No, I've never been there. Okay, well then...
I have been to Italy, but that's cool. I'm a dick.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's so. What is that like? Like for you, do you just not, because you've never seen like a packed room with 300 people? Like, I mean, obviously you've been to shows and concerts and stuff before the pandemic, but it's definitely a different thing being on the other side of the microphone. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah. No, I think there's a level of, well, I'd certainly get a lot of joy out of it. I mean, obviously I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy myself, but I think like just being in a room with any people at this point for me is really fun. Like I've done mics where, you know, it's me and 4 old dudes at an Irish pub in St. Augustine. And those nights, Brennan, have been some of the nights where like I make money in random tips that people off the street hear me and they're like, that was a good joke. Here's a $20 bill. What?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen. That's not supposed to happen. And then
I remember when I was a pretty girl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Thanks for that. If anyone wants to know,
I'm kidding.
I'm just sitting here in lingerie. That's what's happening. No, but it's interesting because it's like those nights sometimes build the most character, and I think
Not sometimes, all the time.
I mean, like what? Like come on, like I don't know. I'm stuttering, but I think mostly when this, you know, whatever this happens, whatever happens out, I mean, it seems like the pandemic's never going to end. I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where it's like, okay, masks off, like, you know, run into a field, like run into this crowded room. Like I feel like people who have went through the pandemic and really pushed through comedy and even any art form, you know what I mean? Like singing, like anything, and they push through it, they will come out stronger because they'll be like, yeah, remember that time that I made these 3 old women laugh at trade winds in St. Augustine for 10 minutes and then I got off the stage and I still thought I bombed. Yeah. But now I'm doing rooms of 50 people and I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like it's so different.
Well, yeah, and it's so bananas that, because like when I look at a room now, like I've done those shit gigs. I've been doing these shit gigs for a long time. Not to say that the gigs that I do now are shit, but what I'm saying is like, when I first started comedy in South Florida, it's incredibly difficult because those, you know, people move to South Florida to pursue comedy.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, you know, there was a lot of open mics, but there's a lot of people signing up. There's a lot of people there.
A lot of bump lists.
Yeah. And I met some really awesome people through that. And it was really cool to be down there. But it's just one of those weird things where it's like then you come up here to Jacksonville or to St. Augustine or Daytona, or I even moved to Oklahoma City for a little while where I was living with my cousin who was doing comedy out there. And it's just weird though, because like a lot of people don't understand like those, when you, especially when you first start out, like I said, and when I was in South Florida, 5 years in when I was in Oklahoma, now 10 years in Jacksonville, I'm still doing rooms that are, in a bar somewhere for 3 people. And like you said, those build character because not every night is going to be that Rain Dogs experience. Not every night is going to be, obviously take the pandemic out of it. I keep saying that because I don't want someone to be like, it's a global pandemic and you're talking about, fuck you. But like take that out of it. But it's like not every night is packed houses.
That's I think the hardest lesson to learn.
Yeah.
I think because like you have to be willing, and this is not an original thought by any means. And I feel like I have to like say like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just on a podcast with a guy I met a month ago. But like I think in general people think that doing comedy means that you're like stop fucking laughing at me, Brennan. Like I think in general people think like, oh, like you do comedy, like you're going out and you're doing like these big, like they imagine like the Comedy Cellar, and you're like, what? Like I literally like scraped the floor with the amount of laughter I got last night. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate that there's so many people in my position who are, months in, a year in, 2 years in, and they feel so discouraged by that because I'm like, dude, like this is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the hard thing to explain to people. And it's one of those things that, because we've talked about this. It's weird to do the show because you, Marcus, and I have talked after the Wednesday show so much, and we've already talked about a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's interesting to rehash. And I know I've gotten emails from people before that are like, "Oh, it's all about comedy."
I know. I was
going
to say,
do
you want me to talk about getting drunk?
Yeah, we will. We still have a while.
Perfect.
And also, I'm doing a podcast because this is something that I would want to listen to.
Yeah, this
so
is
if you don't want to listen to it,
motherfucking podcast, y'all.
No,
Lindsay,
I'm just kidding.
shout out, love you.
I'm just kidding. I love all of you who listen. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe, rate, and review. You're the best. 5 stars. Thank you. But that's the thing that we've talked about ad nauseum is what separates people who do this as a hobby. To go back to the Stephen Baker analogy, the karaoke analogy, what separates people from doing this like every once in a while with their buddies when they're drunk, and what separates people who are actually pursuing it as a passion. That's just like what you're talking about. It's those rooms. Mm-hmm. Like I've talked about this. I don't know if I've talked about this on the show or not, but I did a show a few months ago, and it was a bigger show, and there were people on it that I know do comedy. Our comics do comedy. That's kind of a line in the sand for me, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But I was talking to one of the guys, and he was just kind of like, "Oh, I've never seen you before." And I had mentioned where I do shows at, how I, just came back from Dayton. I've got shows coming up in Georgia, and da-da-da-da. And we were talking about comedy. And then he had explained that, like, he's a full-time paid comedian. Like, this is what he does for his job. Yeah. But then I had mentioned a couple places where I did shows, and I'm trying to be very vague with this. I'll tell you off mic who it was. But I had, I've always wanted to say that.
I'll tell you off mic. Yeah. Backstage pass.
But I told him where I do shows, and he was just like, yeah, I've done a couple of shows there, but, that's not really my scene. It's not really my room, my kind of room. So I just don't even go there anymore. And in my brain, I immediately was like, what? It didn't compute to me. It's like, no, you go up where you go up. Like, you go up when you can go up. Like,
that's like the one thing that I have always, from every vet comedian, they have said that to me. They're like, you get stage time wherever you get fucking stage time. Yeah. And like, that for me still was a weird lesson to learn, because I'm like, well, I don't want to like go, because when I started, I was a very blue comic, and I still feel like there are nights when I'm like, oh, I'm doing a lot of blue shit tonight. Like, I should probably not do so many vulgar jokes. But
yeah, for those of you listening, blue is like vulgar, low-hanging
let me
fruit.
Just straighten my tie over here. I know I have so many comedy
it's
terms.
Almost like a cheat code kind of a thing. It's like, you think of some, like, come on, let's get some real material going.
Right. Anyone
let's make
can
people
make
think.
dick jokes. Like, anyone, and especially as a woman.
I honestly was almost halfway doing a character, because that's people make fun of me that I'm very pretentious when it comes to joke writing.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, you're right. Anyway, continue. So you're doing a lot of dick jokes because you're a clam and you don't have any real material.
I'm a clam. Yes. I'm part of the clam jam. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that we came up with that.
That is an inside joke, and not in any way. Well, it is demeaning, but that's why it's an inside joke. Don't
demean women. Do it.
Do not.
We deserve it. No, don't do that. But I think like when I was first starting out, it's so much blue material, and I'm like, well, do I really want to do that in front of, older people my parents' age. And that's when you start to really realize as a performer, okay, who do I want to be and what am I going to do? Because I think it's so crazy, like you said, when people ask, like, oh, what's that room like? And you're like, oh, maybe there's some weeks it's this way, some weeks it's this way. And they're like, what kind of crowd is it? And I'm like, oh, but they're really digging for what kind of jokes should I do? Yeah. And that's totally fine. It's, you should know your audience.
It's even on a more of a surface level where they're like, is it older? Is it black?
Right.
Is it white? Is
Absolutely.
it men? Is it women? And it's the same thing to what you're talking about, but it's very much like, dude, just read the room. Like, get there and read it.
Yeah,
like, it's stage time. Like, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a skill that it's really a muscle. You know what I mean? Like, you have to practice it. Because I can't tell you how many times, like, in the 4.5 short months that I've been doing it, that you realize, like, oh, this is not I should probably not call Florida white trash when I'm in Daytona. Yeah. Like, I don't want to get shot after this. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I grew up in Daytona. I know exactly what you mean. Oh my God,
yeah.
But it's funny too because it's just like I say that, but I'm always people listening know I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world because there are shows that I've done just like how people will give you an opportunity, they give you the chance, and if you fuck it up, they won't invite you back. I feel that way towards some rooms where where I've heard bad things about rooms, like like it's such like you can't play to the whole room because it's such a mix of people. Like there's tourists and then there's retirees and then there's people who don't really speak English and there's this and there's that. And I've been like, no, fuck that. Like I'm going to go up where I can go up. And I've gone and I've done okay at those shows, but I've left like that was like Marcus says it's all like that was a lot of work. Like this job is supposed to be fun, but that was work.
Oh yeah.
And so there are some rooms that I feel that way about, but that's because I'm a hypocrite. Like sometimes I'm like, you know what I mean though? It's like, oh, if I can't get a good beat on this, then I'm not. But it's all bullshit because I say that. But if someone texted me right now and said, hey, do you want to do that room again? I'd be like,
absolutely.
Fuck yeah. Like you leave saying I'm never doing this room again, but then you do it again. And that's what separates people who do comedy from comedians, in my opinion. That's one of the many things that separates those things.
That's why I specifically, when people ask me, and I corrected you at the beginning when you started recording, was I'm not a comedian. I'm an aspiring comedian. Yeah. Because I respect people like Crespo, like Buck, who I've never met, and like people who I know have been really working it for years, and like those to me are like comics. Those guys are comedians. Like I'm just little old Sally coming off the street saying, hey, can I get on this mic for 5 minutes, and just trying something out. So it's kind of like there's this really weird like line that you cross when you start to do that, and when you start to like go to a mic every single night, join a writing club, do writing sessions. Like I know that someone is serious about comedy when they write and they tell you about how much they write, or they mention like, oh yeah, I was writing this the other day, and you're like, oh, okay, so you normally you regularly work on your stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's funny too because a lot of times you see it where like I don't know if the listeners understand this or not. I'm sure most of them do because most of them like comedy. That's why they listen, or they're my family.
I hope so.
Or they're my family members. Oh, I know at least 2 people who are going to be like, hey man, that whole first half was just comedy. We told you about that. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Matt.
Sorry, Matt.
But there are some people that just have like 10 or 15 like solid like killer minutes. Like murder.
Oh yeah.
But that's what they have. And they don't really write because they've got this feature set that murders. So they don't really feel like they need to write because they can get booked on that set anywhere because it's new to those people. And so I always think that's bizarre because I remember whenever I go to see comedy, and it's different in the local scene because I'm friends with so many of these people.
Yeah, you know people personally.
Yeah, and I love, like, Marcus is like a brother to me. Like, I'd take a bullet for that guy tonight if I had to. But it's weird because, so, we were sitting outside the show last week, and he was like, how did that joke go again of mine? And I was right there.
Was funny.
I was like, this is exactly
awesome,
how it goes. But I've gone to sets, like, out of state and stuff, like in New York and Nashville and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I love this comic. I'm going to go to all 3 shows. but then they do the same set because that's the set they're working. That's
Oh,
the
absolutely.
hour they're working.
Yeah, and that's how it is.
Yeah, and that's just how it works. And I remember when I first, not even before I even did comedy, when I first started going to watch comedy, that never registered to me. Like I was just like, wait a second, it's just this 1 hour? So it doesn't matter how many times I come back. It's just this same hour.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that weird?
And
like when you first start, like there's another podcast I listen to, shameless plug, they're called Breaking Down Bits. And it's literally a podcast like by comedians for comedians, and they interview comics that have specials or shows, or they take a part of their bit and they literally break it down. And I remember this one guy said that like sometimes people, when their friends becomes a comedian or comes to see their show, they're like, oh, you said that last week. And you're like, yeah, and I'm going to do it again the week after. You know what I mean? Because it works. And they're like, oh, this is fake. Yeah. But it's not. Like it might be fake in the sense that like, oh, you tell the same thing and you might tweak a few words. But that's what's so funny about comedy. And I didn't realize that when I got into it. Like I did my first open mic, had a good 5 minutes, and then I wrote an entire new 5 minutes the next week and it bombed. And I was like, wait a minute.
This isn't how this is supposed to go.
I'm supposed to be adding 5 minutes every week. Like, no.
Right. If it worked like that, I'd have
die.
hours and hours
Yeah,
and hours.
exactly. You're lucky if you get like a minute every week solid. Like a solid minute.
Well, and that's why I record every set that I do. I know you do as well, because there have been times where I've done a set and it's gone so well, you kind of almost like Will Ferrell in Old School. I don't know if you've ever seen that because you're very young, but
I am very young. I'm 16.
But no, she's not. No, she's not. Don't say that.
No, you're right. I'm 18.
Don't say that. Okay, that's if you're gonna say it into a microphone, just make sure it's. But
I'm here against my will. Please help. Where's your girlfriend, Savannah?
This is all getting edited out. That is not true. Savannah is home. Everything is fine.
And she's very pretty.
Yes.
And your dogs are very cute.
Thank you. But back to the point.
Comedy.
There's that. No, this is the last thing we'll mention. But there's that scene in Old School where Will Ferrell does the debate and he goes, I blacked out. What happened? And I've had sets like that where it's just going and you're just clicking and you're just, you're riffing with the audience and stuff. And I've told you this before, but like I've got some of my material, like I said, so down that it's just in the back of my head. So I can literally focus and almost have a conversation with an audience member while I'm doing my set.
And they don't even know that you know what you're going to say next.
Yeah, exactly. And they think it's all off the cuff.
Right.
And so that's why I record every set now, because sometimes, and Savannah was really good about pointing this out when she would come to shows. She goes, you pull the mic away and you'll have a throwaway line. Mm-hmm. But for the people who hear it, that's the funniest part. Like that's the best. She's like, just keep the mic to your fucking face and say it into the microphone.
Yeah, that's usually the point. Yeah.
Because sometimes I get like, as I'm like putting like, because I move a lot on stage. So as I'm pulling the mic away from my face, I'll say something that just I think of in the moment.
Right, and it's a tag. And you're like,
it's
that's
the
most brilliant tag ever.
But there's only like the front row heard it.
Yeah.
And so they all laugh. And so that's why I record every set now, is because like you said, like a lot of it is scripted. We know what we're going to say, but some of it is brand new. Some of it comes right off the cuff. So it's very, in my opinion, it's very important to record every set. Even if you don't listen back to it, even if you're like, oh, I bombed, I know everything I did wrong, like, fuck it.
You've seen my cringe moments.
Yes.
I'm never going to listen to this recording,
yeah,
but I always
you literally
do.
save it in your phone under do not listen.
Yeah, I know, because, well, I still listen to it, but it was rough.
Yeah, you still got
I just shed a tear.
All right, now, you did send me some stories. We'll get into the real meat and potatoes, because I know, like I said, Matt's out there listening right now in his car like, what the fuck,
Morgan's
man?
not even funny. What the fuck?
It's all comedy again?
This fucking clam.
If I wanted to I gotta listen to the clam jam again. All right, so this is an interesting story. I wanted to start with this one first, which was the first one you sent me, actually, but I have a whole thing that I do about being raised by the cool mom. I'm sure that's a premise that's been beaten into the ground. Of course, mine is unique to my experience.
Right.
So when you sent me this story about the first time you ever got blackout drunk with your mom at 16, I was very interested because, like I said, I did have the cool mom who was very much like, I say it in a joke, but it's true. She did come to visit me at FAU and just ran the beer pong table for like 4 hours. Which, saying it as like talking to you, it's almost like, wow, that's like I say, you've heard it a million times because I do it in my set, but it's like, no, that's not Like, that's not an on-stage, like, tweak. Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's, like, my life.
And then the RA was banging on the door, and I had to fucking sneak her out the back, and I was like, what?
You're like, why is my mom going through the window?
Yeah.
Shouldn't she be, like, a 20-year-old girl that I was trying to bang?
Yeah,
no, it's my mom.
No. Yeah, that's weird. But so when you sent me that, it made me laugh because you told me that you don't really have a ton of drinking stories, and you're kind of boring in your older age now, but... You said
in my 25 years,
yeah,
I'm
in your quarter life
crisis. Shout out Taylor Tomlinson, we love you. Sorry, Dan.
But tell us about that. What happened? Where were you? What was going on? You were in Miami. I'm sorry, you did write that in there.
Yeah. So
what were you doing in Miami? Because you're from Colorado.
I'm from Colorado. I was born in Miami. My mom was a firefighter in Miami for 12 years, and they brought my brother and I out to Colorado to raise us, get away from the crime of Miami, or at least that's what they say.
Are your parents still together?
Yes, still together, very much in love. Now they're all living in Florida. And when I was 16, my mom.
So you've moved to Colorado at this point?
Yeah, I'm living in Colorado. I got there when I was like 3.
Okay,
so
that's right,
I was raised there. Like everything, all my awkward stages were in
Colorado.
The Rocky Mountains. Yeah. So my mom had a really great relationship with her cousins who lived in Miami, and
all 78 of them.
All 78 of them. Yeah.
That's not only racial. That's
oh
a Miami
my God,
joke too.
that's stupid. And she. Like, I was begging my mom. I was like, I want to go to Miami. Like, I've never, I was upset that I wasn't raised in Miami because I was like, here I am, like a Latina. I don't speak Spanish. I'm like, why didn't you raise me in Miami so I could be like this sexy woman? You know what I mean? And so my mom's like, okay, fucking fine. And so she takes me to Miami at 16. We're there for 3 weeks. It's in the summertime.
Whoa, so it's not like,
No, it's like
you're
we're
just
like
living
staying...
a whole Will Smith song.
Yeah,
Summertime,
literally.
Miami. You're getting jiggy with it?
Dude, hell yeah. And like her cousins had kids that were...
Of course they did.
God, probably like 5 years older than me. Okay, you're hilarious. Yeah, because we're all Latino. Okay. And except they're like 6 foot, like Brazilian blonde women that are like
really?
So gorgeous. Yeah. And they're also all firefighters.
Oh, that's that joke that you have.
Yes, all of my jokes because I'm so funny.
No, you said they're Brazilian blonde.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the Argentina. Anyway.
Yes. Anyway, we're a melting pot. This is probably not even a good story.
No, it better be. It took us 40 minutes to get here.
Oh my God. Oh shit. So we don't even have any time on the podcast. Okay.
We got
anyway,
plenty. We got plenty. Doesn't have to be a tight hour.
So the I guess the long of the short of the long, whatever.
So you go to Miami. 3 weeks
in
Miami.
3
Cousins.
weeks. I'm learning, like, my mom is showing me, the fire station she used to work at, like the school that I went to when I was in like pre-K, like stuff that I have no idea about.
Yeah.
Like I'm meeting all these people my mom used to work with.
What
all
part
these
of Miami
people.
is it?
Her cousins live in Kendall. I'm from the Palmetto Bay area.
Okay.
Why are you smiling like that?
I thought you were gonna go 3 for 3 on the generic stuff.
Oh no. I don't know. I don't even know what the generic answer to that would be.
Never mind. Keep going.
And we're sitting in my cousin's like kitchen my mom's cousin, whatever. We're sitting in the kitchen one night and we're talking about my second cousin turning like 21 because at the time she was 25, which is how old I am now, which is crazy. But she was talking about how when she turned 21, her parents got this really yummy alcohol, which is, if anyone uses the word yummy to describe alcohol, they should be punched in the gut. Like there's no way you should be doing that. But so she brings out a handle that was in the freezer of coffee Patron.
Okay.
And like dark as like black liquid.
Yeah,
in
it's
this
almost
fucking
like tar.
vial. It's literally and
because it won't freeze, but it'll get really.
Oh, it'll get sludgy.
Yeah,
it'll get sludgy for sure. And she brought it out almost as like this is what it is. And I'm 16. Like I've taken maybe a total of 1.5 shots in my lifetime ever. And we were already drinking wine as like a fun, like, it's dinner time. We'll drink wine. My mom was cool with letting me drink a glass of wine or whatever.
Cool mom.
And
I don't swear to God, if you steal, no.
I don't know how this happened, dude. But like, there was a shot glass in front of me. There was Patron poured in it. I took it like a champ. Coffee fucking Patron. And I take it like a champ. And then my mom starts taking shots.
Uh-oh.
And in my head, I'm like, I think at this point I'm thinking like, oh, like I'm just going to take a shot. Like, haha, like, oh, I'm so good at this, Mom. Why am I so good? You know what I mean? Like, probably from watching like Animal House or some dumb shit. And like, then all of a sudden there's...
I love how, just a quick pause, how you're 25 and you reference a movie that's like 3 times your age.
It's not 3 times my age. When did it... No, it didn't.
84?
No,
maybe?
it didn't. There's no way.
Yeah, because John Belushi...
Are you going to look it up?
Yeah, John Belushi died in 82. Wait, maybe it was... God damn it, now I'm all over the map. Anyway, so you... So you do the shot. You take it like a champ.
I do the shot. I take it like a champ. My mom's all of a sudden taking a shot. My mom's cousin is taking shots, and she has like a liver of steel. She's not going anywhere. Like, she could take the whole bottle down and be sober as hell. And suddenly there's
78.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I'm
just
definitely
so
close
cultured.
on that. Yeah, you're so cultured.
I'm so cultured.
Just want to make sure about the John Belushi thing. Died at the age of 33 in 1982. Thank you. Good night.
Oh my God. That's
Student
so
of comedy.
crazy because I was born in 2005. That's crazy. So,
I'm just stoked that I was right on both counts.
You're always right, Brennan. This
No.
is your podcast. How could
Not
you ever
always.
be
Stop.
wrong?
Don't
How
do
could
that.
you ever be wrong, sir?
I get enough of that. Don't do that.
Ew. Oh, I hate myself.
You're always right, huh? You always got to be right.
Hey, that's why we're in comedy, right? We love attention.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
true.
we're not talking about comedy. So anyway, there's Patron suddenly spilled all over this counter, and I have no idea why it spilled, how it spilled.
Yeah.
We're taking shots, and all of a sudden it's on the counter, and I'm like, where did this come from? And then I see my mom walk around to the other side. It's like an island, like an island in the kitchen. And my mom sticks her face to the island and starts sucking up the Patron on the counter. My mom.
It seemed grosser in my mind because I thought you were going to say someone threw up the
No.
Patron.
Like, it was just, like, I think a shot glass
fell
spilled.
over. Okay.
And so then she's like my cousin's laughing, and my poor cousin or my second cousin is, I think at the time, like a nursing student or something.
And she's 25?
25. So she has to wake up at 4 a.m. the next day. She is not doing these drunk shenanigans.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, I'm fully clothed in the shower, and my mom is trying to shove me into the water while she is also outside of the shower fully clothed and is like, Morgan, you need to clean yourself up before you go to sleep. And then the next thing I know,
You don't remember anything from the spilling of the shot, your mom drinking it up?
I think I just kept, I think I must have taken another shot, or, you know, like, mind you, I'm 16, so I have no idea what tolerance is. I don't know that you have to eat before you know what I mean?
Well,
I'm just fucking winging it.
Yeah, you haven't really drank ever before, ever.
No.
And I'm sure, you're 16, so you're probably like 100 pounds. You haven't eaten, and then you just start doing shots.
I was fucked. And like, then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm like in this tank top that I got from dance camp that I brought with me, and I'm like, I never fucking wear this tank top. Why is this on me? And I'm like laying in my bed, and I roll over, and my mom is like watching me. It's like, she obviously came in my bedroom to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
And then she fell asleep on top of the bed. And then I go out and I just start like puking everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the first night I've ever prayed to the porcelain god.
Black
like,
puke? Black tar?
Oh yeah. Like,
the coffee?
and I puked everywhere but the toilet. Like, every single place
you
you
hate
could
when that
possibly,
happens?
like carpet, tile, shower curtain, like, bottom of the fucking bathtub. And then I actually am in the bathtub, and my cousin is trying to bathe me, this poor woman. and
the nursing student?
Yeah, and all of a sudden I'm like, I see crackers in my hand. I don't eat any of them. I throw them in the toilet. I try to flush them down. And then I'm like drinking water, and it tastes like gasoline for some reason. And then I wake up the next day. My hair is a rat's nest. I'm like, it's like 11 a.m. and I look over, my mom's gone out of my bed, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? I have no idea. And I go into the kitchen, and my mom's like, so how you feeling, champ? Like, nothing happened. Like, nothing phases her. And the whole rest of the day, that was my first like big hangover.
Serious hangover.
Yeah. And now saying the story out loud, it's not nearly as funny as I thought it was.
No, that's pretty hilarious.
I don't know. It's not as funny as smuggling cocaine from Colombia into the United
but that's
States.
different. That's
I'm not a white male, so I don't have that privilege.
Shots fired. Scott Sandlin.
JK, love you, Scott.
Well, how much? So many questions. Actually, most of my questions pertain to after this happens. So you go back to Colorado. Is it just not mentioned again? Do you drink it all the rest of the trip in Miami? Does this open up some sort of door to where you're like, oh, I like to party and drink?
Oh,
or
I definitely started doing more in high school and then like the first year of college. But no, my mom and dad have always been really like good with me. Like they, you know, if I do something stupid, they grounded me. They were like, you know, took away whatever appliance or like
device.
Technology. Yeah, like they always did that kind of stuff, but they kept me grounded, I felt like. But they also
kept
were
you
like
grounded
laughing.
Or you like stayed
grounded like
there you go.
down to earth.
There you go.
I don't know how to speak English.
You're a wordsmith. You got to use them.
Oh yeah. So my dad's like getting texts
If you don't
from my
believe me, listen to
mom.
the first half of the show where all we talk about is comedy.
This is like the worst episode you're probably gonna put out. People are like,
Who says I'm putting this out?
Oh, exactly,
No, I'm just
exactly.
kidding.
But no, my dad's just getting texts from my mom that day, thinking, "Haha, our daughter finally," like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Almost
just
drank
like,
herself to death.
Yeah, pretty much. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I didn't really drink the rest of the trip. I remember eating a Jello cup and thinking, "Oh, there's too much alcohol in here," because it tasted like
Booze.
coffee Patron. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always. I'm always curious about that. Having people on here talking about drugs and drinking and stuff is, I've noticed, and just being sober now for so long and going to meetings. I'd tell you about them, but they're anonymous, so I won't.
Right. No one knows.
See what I did there? Wordsmith.
I knew you were gonna fucking say that.
Mark that. Editing that out. All right. No, but. It's interesting to hear people's stories about, because I love stories, and it's interesting to hear people's stories about like what route they take. Because life is just a choose your own adventure game. So it's very much like there's some people.
Just a giant choose your own adventure book. Yeah.
There are some people like who get fucked up for, like, I've heard people tell stories where they're like, yeah, I've been an alcoholic since the first time I tried booze. And I was like, that's heavy, and it doesn't sound accurate, but maybe.
No, I just never...
because like, obviously I'm only speaking from my experience because I am an alcoholic. Obviously you're not, and I don't want anyone to get that impression that I'm trying to like shock journalism.
Convert
like,
me.
You have a problem.
You have a problem.
You've
bitch.
drank like once in a month. You have a problem.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
But it's just weird to me because like that experience, what you went through, you could have been like, man, fuck this. Like, I'm never touching booze again.
Oh yeah.
Or you could go the other way, like, oh, that was kind of shitty, but I got over it after a couple of days. Why not try more stuff? Or maybe I really liked how I felt. So I just thought that was interesting that you said that it definitely opened up some more doors for you when you got back.
Well, I think that year, let's see, I was 16, so I must have been going into...
Sophomore year, right? I graduated at 17, so I don't know. So
I was going into my junior year because I have an early birthday, so I was kind of like older. So, I think that was kind of the first time for me which thank God it was my mom, but like it was the first time that I kind of realized like, oh, this is what getting drunk is like. Like this is what it's like to kind of lose a little bit of control and maybe reach your limit and realize what your limit is.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. In high school, I was a little more like I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted people to like me. So I was more like, on my dance team, like if the girls were, hanging out with the football players, I was like, oh, I hope they invite me, and we would go and I would drink because that's what everyone was doing. And I felt like that's what you had to do. Mm-hmm. But it never turned into something that I like really enjoy. Like even to this day, like, I'll go to a comedy show, I'll go support, I'll drink a beer and I'm good. Like, which is
bananas to me that people do that.
Really? Yeah. I guess I'm just not a huge drinker, I guess.
Because I was the reverse. So in high school, I had this, because I was a nerd and a dork and bullied, and I've covered all that on the show, but I never drank. Mm-hmm. And everyone in my family was big drinkers back then, and I thought it was so toxic because, and it's just from my perspective at the time, I just thought like, whenever anyone gets drunk, I always seem to get yelled at. So I was just kind of like,
I'm done with this.
Yeah, I was like,
Stop it, Mom.
I was kind of like, I don't want to. I'm not going to point any fingers directly. I was just kind of like, I don't want to. I don't want to drink. I don't want to do that. And so I just never drank. And then I remember one time I drank with my twin sister. I think we were seniors, and I drank with her, and I was like all that anxiety that I had, all that depression and nervousness, it all went away.
Yeah, and then you're like,
and I was like, oh, this is like medicine. This is like magic.
See, that's how I felt about weed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how I felt about weed when I started smoking in like senior year of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were saying, and that's why I was curious, because I know you said that happened when you were 16, and that kind of, I was curious because then the very next year when you're 17, you were talking about going to house parties and stuff.
Oh God, yeah.
With like college house parties.
Yeah.
While you were 17. I don't know if someone wants to go back in time and call an authority figure or something, but
But you know what's crazy though? Like,
you're going to house parties at 17, college house parties? Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But here's the thing though, is I went to a school, like high school, that was literally right next to a college campus. So
okay, yeah.
So it was kind
Was
of
this
normal.
Boulder?
Yeah, it was the University of Colorado Boulder. I ended up going to that college.
Go
yeah.
Buffaloes.
Go Buffs. Get stuff. Go Buffs. And like that was the thing, is when you were, especially as a girl, which I know is really creepy, and I'm very lucky that I had some guys that looked out for me, that I had met through work when I was a waitress. They were like, "Oh, why don't you come over to my house?" You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a creepy vibe, because they knew that I was just like a random girl that was just trying to work, like, you know, get money over the summer, and then
fuck bitches get money.
Yeah, fuck bitches get, of course. And I had just kind of stumbled upon these friends that were like, oh, like you're only 17, like, okay, we'll watch. And there were girls there that were like, oh, we're gonna watch after you, like we're not gonna let you do anything crazy.
Okay, so it's just a combination of working in the service industry, living right near the campus.
Yeah, because you know how that is.
Oh,
like,
I'm very
yeah,
aware.
like and it's so weird, because it's like
that's how I met the love of my life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like fucking around in the kitchen. The cooks are telling her she's pretty, and you're like, no, like that's not how it's supposed to go. It's so weird. But I loved it, because I wasn't like, I never felt like I wasn't like a prey. Like there was no predator energy.
Yeah.
And I think it was because I was hanging out with the kids at the house parties that were not fraternity brothers, not sorority girls, not like, they were the outcasts, if anything, where they were.
Yeah.
And so it was a fun environment where it was like, they're just drinking, trying to listen to music, play Mario Kart.
An island of misfit toys.
Right. And that's where I fit in. And that was what I wanted to do.
Why we do comedy.
That's why we fucking do comedy, bro. Yeah. Make people laugh, because we don't have any laughter inside. That's great.
Yeah, we're broken toys. We just want people to play with us.
This is depressing.
No, not at all.
Where's my
But-
Zoloft?
So what was like they're not frat parties. They're obviously not like, you know, you're not partying with the football players and everything. And I can only speak to that from my experience, because
Yeah.
I was never in a frat. But I don't know if you know this about me. I played college football.
Oh, really?
So,
No, that's so weird. I've never heard you bring it up.
Yeah, so that was fucking hate you. But so what do you like you said, you guys are just drinking, hanging out, listening to music, just chilling.
I
So
mean,
they weren't like ragers or like the ABC parties, anything but clothes.
I mean,
and,
like I think like the thing that caught me off guard, which I'm glad that I kind of reeled it in a little bit, was you know, that was kind of where I learned about like social smoking, I guess, in a way, like cigarettes. Like and I would, I'd go outside, and because I wanted to be a part of the group, like oh, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette, like I'm kind of drunk, like I'm gonna learn how to do this, whatever. And then I remember one time there was a party, and it's almost like they did it every Saturday night, like it was a ritual, and I was working so much that I was working doubles, because I just want to save money, you know, to I think that at that point I might have had a car.
If you don't mind my asking.
I worked at a retirement home.
Okay.
And I was a waitress in they didn't call it a cafeteria, because it wasn't like, it was like a full service restaurant. Like the people, whether they were in assisted living or independent living, would come in, sit down. They had a menu. They ordered different entrees. They ordered whatever they wanted. I waited on them. They got a bill. It was like a whole thing, but that's where they ate.
Okay.
So by all means, it was like I was a waitress, but I just saw the same customers every day pretty much. And I knew what their orders were. And my Nana lived there because my Nana had dementia. Aww. And so I got to kind of like see her at the end of her life.
That's so fucking sweet.
Yeah. You know, it was, I know, it is really sad. And I was like sneaking champagne in the back while I was serving my Nana like a psychopath. I mean, but she was a nice lady. I love Nana Morgan. She's my favorite.
She's a nice lady.
She's a nice lady. She's from Jersey. But like that camaraderie, I don't even know where I was going with this. Oh, you asked me. We were
talking about
Yeah, and the people there were like they just wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time they were like, "Oh, we don't have, a keg for tonight. We don't have anything going on." And I had $60 in my bank account. And I said, "I'll get the keg."
Yeah.
17. And because I just wanted to, I wanted to have fun. Yeah. And so I gave them my debit card. They took my and I only had $60 in my account, so it's not like they were going to overcharge whatever. And they
Were
took
you aware of how much a keg cost?
I don't think so, because I thought 60 was enough.
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
I'm
pretty sure they were getting the shittiest beer, Natty Ice.
Yeah.
Gross shit. And like they came back and then they told me, they're like, if you want to like get people to pitch in, just go around and say, "Hey, I bought the keg. Give me some money," or much more eloquently than that.
Yeah.
And no one gave me money. No one gave a fuck. No one, like, everyone was like, "Oh, well, that's stupid for you for giving your debit card away." And then one guy gave me a Visa gift card that said $75 on it, and it had 26 cents on it. And I just remember thinking, like, this is so stupid. What the fuck am I doing?
These are your friends that were going to look out for you?
Right. And mind you, my father also worked in the city. He worked for the city of Boulder.
Okay.
So his job was to kind of go out in the field, go in the streets, make sure that safety and compliance was in order, the snowplows were going out on time, all these things. And my dad knew what my car looked like, and I like to lie a lot. So I would tell my parents, "I'm going to my friend Maggie's house," whatever, and I'd go to a party, and my dad saw my car. I had a blue Honda Element, so like no one has that car.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He sees it parked up on the College Hill next to CU at like 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekday.
Yeah.
And he leaves his business card on my windshield.
That's gangster.
And he says, "Since when did Maggie move to the hill?" And then he marked the time and date that he put, and he signed it. He signed his name. And so I come out of this, I slept over at this person's house. They always let me like sleep in my own room, like, because I was 17, they weren't going to like fuck with me. And so I get up the next day, it's like noon. I go outside, I see it, and I'm like, like, I am so fucked. So I change into pajamas as if that's gonna like break
he
the
saw
scent.
your car. Yeah.
And so then I drive to my dad's work and I call him and I'm like, "I'm outside of your work, Dad. Like, I just want to talk to you." And so my dad comes outside and he's like, "Morgan, I'm not fucking stupid. Like, I saw your car outside of one of the dumpiest college houses that clearly, red Solo cups on the lawn, couches outside in the grass, like." And so I think after that, I kind of like started to calm down a little bit, because I was like, yeah, if I had a kid and they were running around and they were a girl doing like that.
Well, especially because like the people you're hanging out with, you trust, but
absolutely.
I'm sure your dad's thinking the other way, like,
right.
What's going to happen if some guy's just like, "No, you're mine now."
Yeah. And to this day, I like thank my lucky stars for the fact that it was like a loving environment and not, like the creepiest thing that ever happened was maybe a guy tried to like hit on me, and one of the guys that knew me was like, "Nah, dude, not her." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because working in the service industry as long as I have, and you just see it everywhere, is it's very much like there are some people out there who give a shit and there's some people who don't.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine like you seem like the way you're telling the stories, you seem very comfortable with the crew that you were with.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, having, sisters, like two sisters, like I've gotten in plenty of fights out with my twin sister when people are coming up, like, and she's very much that mindset, like, "What's the big deal? We're just talking." And I'm like, "No, men are garbage pieces of shit.
They absolutely
like,
are.
You're not
every single one of them.
You're not talking. Like, you're not talking to this guy."
Yeah.
And so it's really cool that you had that comfortability with them, where they were just kind of like, "No, like you're cool." But as your father, I'm sure he was like, "The fuck you are."
Yeah, I know.
You're banging some
I can't
22-year-old grad student.
Yeah, I can't believe my dad hasn't had a heart attack. Like all the shit that I've put him through.
Are you an only child?
No, I have an older brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's in the military.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Where's he at? Is he in Florida too now?
He's in Hawaii.
Oh, shit.
And but he's
in the Navy.
Marines. Yeah, so same. I know it's the more intense version of the Navy. I don't really know, but like he was a much better is not like he was a much more put together kid in terms of like he didn't get in trouble. Like he was the kind of person that maybe his grades weren't great, but like I was the misfit.
Stories. Let's not like you're out there getting arrested and stuff. Like
no, absolutely.
No, it's very similar to my twin sisters. Growing up, my twin sister and I was, I didn't get awesome grades, but I was in IB and like I said, I didn't drink or get in any kind of trouble until much later in life. And she was a popular kid who had, parties and stuff and was always, going out and sometimes I've talked about this on the podcast, but when we were younger, I was always the one thinking like, oh, like I'm the I might not get awesome grades, but I'm the well-adjusted one. And then it was funny, growing up, like then, you fast forward 5 or 10 years and all of a sudden it's like totally like she got into a little bit of trouble when we were younger and now I'm getting like arrested and put away. Kind of trouble. Yeah. And it's like, this did not go the way I saw this going.
No.
I thought she was the one who was going to keep getting in trouble.
Gosh.
And she actually became a very well-adjusted, fully functioning member of society.
Yeah.
She's a great mom with 2 kids and she's married and they own a house. And I was the one running around getting in trouble. And I was like, this did not work out the way I thought it was going to.
You're like, I talk about suicide at comedy shows.
Yeah,
this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is what I do.
But it's that. So your relationship with your brother reminds me very much of my relationship with my sister, where it's like, it's like, I was the one getting in quote unquote trouble.
Yeah.
But again, this, like you said, this isn't sneaking cocaine in and out of Bogota.
Yeah. I know you chose the wrong person to be on your podcast. I'm not like, here's all these fucking stripper stories.
That's the thing. We got to stop just referencing that one episode.
Sorry,
I've had
Scott.
a lot of people on.
He's not going to listen to this. He doesn't care.
Daisy was on talking about the things that happened to her at Kansas, which makes you partying at Boulder seem like a fun time versus the shit that happened to her.
Like, I'll be honest, like I made a lot of questionable decisions. Like I did, like my freshman year, like I did my array of drugs. You know what I mean? Like I tried things, but
did
I never.
You ended up going to Boulder, correct?
Yeah. I went there for 3.5 years,
okay.
And I lived in the dorms for first year, and then lived with my parents because I like that's way too expensive to just live on my own. And I experimented with shit, like I did what you do, and then I think I kind of I got really into dance, and I thought dance was gonna be my thing. Were you
dancing in college?
Yeah, I didn't dance for CU. I danced on a hip hop crew in Denver, and so I was. Why the fuck do you laugh?
It's just.
You know what? Every time that I say hip hop crew, people think that it's like the gayest thing ever, but it's really not.
Were you guys stomping the yard?
No, shout out Co-One Motive. No one's they're never gonna hear this, but they're like, I would consider it a semi-professional dance.
Wait, why
crew.
are they never gonna hear this? You better fucking share this with Co-One
I'll share
Motive.
it with them. I'll send it. Yeah. But
took
like
an hour and 6 minutes, but we got the clip.
Oh my god, yeah, we got it. But
you sang not at CU, but I was part of a hip hop dance crew.
Yeah, I was. I mean, it was legit. Like we went to Dallas.
You served people. I know how it goes.
Oh my god, I'm gonna punch you in the face after this. Oh god, but it was really cool. Like we got money as a group to go to shows and perform and compete
and serve people. Yeah,
and we did a music video. Like it was a real thing. I hate you so much. I'm gonna stop talking.
No, keep going. This is interesting.
I don't know. Like I got really serious about. I minored in dance too, so I was also like I was
well, so
teaching
not that
dance.
Serious.
Okay, fuck you. I was teaching dance. I was teaching like 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then I was minoring in dance, and then, obviously majoring in communication, a useless degree. And then I got my crew going, and then it wasn't my crew, but I got on the crew. And then it was like my life completely switched over. And then I got super serious about like internships, and I got to get a job right out of college. And then I graduated early because I was like, oh, obviously I can do that. I should do that.
Yeah.
And it was like my partying whatever kind of just turned into me being a pothead at night and smoking and watching Friends until I fell asleep. Like that was you know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very uninteresting. I apologize.
No,
this episode did not go the way I thought it was going to go.
How'd you think it was going to go?
I have no idea. I didn't think we were going to talk about comedy at all.
At all?
I don't know.
Have you listened to this podcast?
Yes, I have. Yes, but I'm so new that it's like I'm almost thinking back. I'm like,
you
what
sent
the
me
fuck did I
two
say?
stories. I couldn't fill an hour with 2 stories.
I'm sorry, guys. For you
No, the hip hop
listening at
dance
home.
crew thing. This is a whole other lane now that we have to explore.
Oh, okay.
So what happened? No. We're going down this road. What happened with the dance?
Why did I stop?
Yeah. I understand you said you graduated early and you wanted to get a real job out of college. So were you, while you were doing hip hop, this is interesting to me because it actually goes full circle back to the comedy. When you're doing dance and you're this invested in it and it means this much to you, but at the same time you're thinking, oh, I need to graduate early. I need to go get a real job. I need to do internships and stuff. Which one was going to give? Was dance in your head, in your heart of hearts, and back of your mind, dance was just a hobby then because you didn't pursue that after college, or like what happened?
Well, so, if you keep laughing every time I say hip hop crew, I'm gonna have a hard time.
Okay,
But
no, I'm sorry. I won't.
I don't know
won't-
what
it's
else to call it. It's a
I
team.
know,
It's a dance team.
I know, it's-
But so
It's just
I
looking at you, and then you go with your glasses on
I'm
and
a
everything.
hip
going,
hop team. Yeah, I know.
no, you said hip hop crew.
Hip hop
You said it like
crew.
yeah. You
I'm
put
like the
bass-
whitest. I'm like the whitest.
You
of
said it
white
with your
girls.
chest.
I do have a big chest, so that works out. But no, I was living in Boulder and I was dancing in Denver, which some people don't know is an hour away.
Oh, okay.
So I
just figured all those cities were next to each other.
Yeah, so we had rehearsals that were 3 hours long 3 times a week.
An hour
So-
away.
Yes, and
Okay.
so I would be doing like
Denver's bigger than Boulder, correct?
Oh, Denver's the capital of Colorado.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's amazing. It's a beautiful city.
I mean, being the capital doesn't.
Yeah.
Tallahassee's the capital, and nobody fucking knows.
Yeah, but Denver's dope. I mean,
Yeah.
Denver, it's dope. But I don't know. I was in the busiest of busy times. I was waking up in the morning, going to school for 4 hours, then doing my dance studies in the afternoon, then teaching dance for 3 hours, then going to rehearsal, like driving all the way from the dance studio to another dance studio to rehearse for 3 hours, getting home at like 1, 2, sometimes 3 a.m. in the morning, and it's snowing. It snows half the year. And so I'm like burning a wick at both ends.
Candle, but yeah.
Yes, a candle.
Burning the candle at both ends.
Burning a wick at both ends.
No, it's burning the candle at both ends.
It's burning a wick. A candle doesn't burn. A wick burns. The candle
the
melts.
phrase is burning the candle.
Burning
at
a
both
wick
ends.
at both ends.
Keep talking.
Ask Matt and Lindsay, your listeners, to settle that one. But
My 2 listeners.
your 2 listeners.
No, so you're burning the candle at both ends.
Okay, I'm burning the wick at both ends. And I realized there was like a very surreal moment I had where I was also part of a an academic chapter on campus for public relations students because I wanted to go into PR. And I realized that you have to get an internship in order to graduate. That was like one of the requirements of
that was the same
program.
thing. If you wanted to go to law school, yeah.
Right, and I think that's a great requirement because it's it's kind of like real field on the job experience. But I realized that there was no way that I could complete an internship and be a full-time student and be a dance instructor and dance on a team.
Something's got to give.
Right, and I was like, well, obviously I have to get my degree. Like that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? Why would I do 3 years of school and then just not do the internship? So I was also in a point in my dancing where I felt like the environment was not lending itself to my emotional growth. And I was dating a guy on the team and I loved him, still love him to this day. Like one of my good friends. We actually texted the other day about comedy. And it was one of those things where I was like, this part of my life
Does
doesn't.
he know about comedy?
He doesn't know anything about comedy, but he's excited for me because he's a nice person. Yes. He's
And,
awesome.
You dance together, you die together.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
exactly. Yeah. We have fucking, oh God. But like, it was just to the point where I was like, you know what?
Bad boys for life. I'm sorry.
Savannah! Help! Where are your dogs? I want to hang out
I'm
with
sorry.
them.
Okay, so
It was just to the point where I was like, I love dance and it'll always be my first love, but it was a lot. It was a lot. And the crew, it was the same thing where in comedy, where it's like, there's people who dance and then there are dancers.
Yeah.
And to me,
I
I felt like I was never going to be a dancer, even though I was relatively good because I had been doing it all my life and I had a lot of formal training in hip hop. So I was a hip hop dancer. I wasn't a ballerina who was trying to do hip hop. I wasn't, you know what I mean? So I kind of felt like, you know what? This is not my career path. I don't want to move to LA. I don't want to audition for the go-to talent agency. I don't want to do any of that because I'm not, like, in my head, I was like, you know what? I'm a curvy girl. That's going to be tough. Yeah. I like money. Like, I'm not gonna,
like being a gymnast, right? Where
yeah.
You gotta be small, petite, like
yeah. And I mean, now that we live in the world of like, Lizzo and, Beyonce is really like I feel like there's more opportunity now, of course, for full figure dancers, which thank God, because they deserve a limelight too. But it was one of those things at the time, I'm 21. I'm like, I'm not gonna, like, I even hated teaching dance at one point. Yeah. So I'm like, these kids don't want to be here. Their mom just signed them up because they didn't want to play soccer.
Yeah, I got certified in personal training and I couldn't do it because I was like, oh, you guys, like, I'm a fucking psycho. Like, I'm an addict. Like, if you're going to come to work, we're going to work. And
right. Yeah. And so I felt like, you know what? I also didn't want to make other people feel like they put their heart into it and I wasn't putting my heart into it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I ended up, leaving my crew, getting an internship, shut the fuck up, and doing really well. And I graduated early because I don't know why I had so many
credits. So you left the crew before you went to the internship.
I did it at the same time. Like, okay. My final thing was we performed in New York and we did a competition. We got like 6th place, which was like, at the time we weren't happy with that. Yeah. But it was a great experience. Out of 28.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something like 6,000 people. You got 6 and you weren't happy with that.
No.
Like,
it was it was Prelude. It was a really cool thing. But, I got to see New York. I got to do the thing, go to Times Square. Like, I got to do the thing, right? Yeah. And then I knew on that trip, I was like, this is not the environment for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in college. Like, a lot of the people on the crew weren't in college. And
that was their life.
Right. And that was crew, really tough for me because I was like, fuck, like I want to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I knew that I was going to have to get an internship the next semester. I met with people. I was like, hey guys, like, I'm going to take a break. And then eventually the break turned into me being like, I don't want to go back. Yeah. Like, I don't want to do this again.
Every relationship when you say we're going to take a break.
Yeah. And, it ended up working for the best because then I graduated and I moved to Colorado Springs, which was 2 hours south, and I got a job, and then I hated it, and then I moved to Florida. So like it all,
because your parents are here now, correct?
Mm-hmm,
okay,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had mentioned that earlier. When did they move? You don't have to get too personal, but did they move to Florida when you were done with college? When you moved to Colorado Springs?
My mom. I graduated in 2017.
God, I'm so old.
No, you're fine. No, I'm just a small baby.
2012.
Oh, that's not bad. I graduated high school in 2014.
Oh, shit. Oh,
yeah,
06.
I know. Yeah, okay. So my parents moved down right around the time that I was graduating. And it was kind of like a piecemeal thing. It was like they got the house, my mom went down and then came back, and then my dad stayed in Boulder to like get the house ready to sell and all this. And so that and then eventually they both ended up down here, like in the house that they got. And
but that's intense. It might not seem like it, but that's 4 or 5 life-changing things all happening within 6 months of each other.
I struggled a lot for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, between leaving dance, then graduating school, or the internship, then graduating, then moving to Colorado Springs, your parents moving, you now really have
lived in my own apartment by myself for the very first time ever.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you now have like no affiliate, like, in all this happened within 6 months of each other. That's
it was
nuts.
a lot.
That's why when you said that's why earlier when I was saying I'm so interested in stories, because I know where you are now. Like I know where you work. I know what you do. I know you do comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were saying I was on a hip hop dance crew and I loved dance and dance was my life. And I'm like, well, wait a second.
Oh, absolutely.
This isn't adding up, because you're
weird.
saying in Colorado, 3,000 miles away, dance was your life. And now you're living in Florida.
Comedy's my life.
Doing comedy, and then you have a regular job. So I was like, there's something happened here.
Yeah.
In between.
I've always been the type of person that I put a lot of pressure on myself to like find who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, who am I gonna be? And I think that I'm always jumping to the next thing. Like I'm always, you know what I mean? Like I thought I explored Wiccan culture for a little bit. Like I joined an outer court for a little bit, and I thought I was going to be a witch for 2 months. And we should have started with this.
I know.
And like I did the whole thing. Like I bought the robe. Like I got all the ceremonial shit. Like I thought that was going to be, and then I thought I was going to be a videographer, and I started looking at.
Where the fuck did that come from?
What?
How did you get into the witch thing? Boyfriend?
No.
Girlfriend?
I haven't dated anyone in a long time. But it's like since
that just
I moved to
seems like
Florida,
something like. Hey, I've got these friends. You know, we do these seances. You should check it out.
Oh my god, I wish. No, I've always been into like horoscopes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I read this book called "You Are Magical," and
the force is strong with this one.
Yes, and I don't know. It was just all this stuff about enlightenment, and I'm not religious, and my parents aren't really religious. I would consider myself more spiritual. My dad's the one that's from Argentina, but he's not really like, he grew up Catholic, and he's like, I don't want to force that on my kids kind of thing. So I like read about it, and then I think I got like a Wiccan book, and then I went to like a metaphysical store, and I'm very like good energy in, good energy out type person. Like karma exists. Like I don't really know what I believe, but I went onto this website called witchvox.com, which will show you all of the Wiccan groups in your area.
Huge shout out, witchvox.com.
Yeah, witchvox.com. And I'm pretty sure it got taken down for something. I can't remember. But it's a very, very secretive, like some people that I met, I still don't know their real names.
Yeah, they don't
know what I
get
mean?
Because
they want to protect themselves. Yeah, and you go and you learn all about the different, and I was in a place where they had me read specific books, and they gave me different texts that I had to learn, and I had to
so you were like
learn incantations, and it was that was only in doing it for 2 months, and I kind of got freaked out.
Okay.
Not because there's nothing weird about it. There's no blood. There's no.
No. I think I find. I mean, shit. I fucking follow Star Wars like it's a religion. I find all that shit interesting.
Yeah, it was just too like there
so...
was a point where it's like you have to. It's kind of like getting baptized. Like you have to kind of commit yourself to the religion. Yeah. And so you have to like come up with a name, and you have to like do, and I'm probably going to get some note on my doorstep for even saying this, but like you have to kind of really get into
the specific things you told me you didn't want to talk about, and understandably so. And now you're talking about people who could curse you just openly.
Oh no!
And the other stuff you didn't want to talk about, it seems so mundane next to this. I know, it is
so mundane. But I don't know. It was just a weird part, and I got freaked out, and I was like, "Nah, this ain't it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still wear a lot of black, and I talk about me being a Scorpio, but that's the extent.
So you're a burn bright but burn shortly kind of person.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate because I am terrified that will happen with comedy.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to be a douche, but you know, the dance thing and then the Wiccan thing, and then that's my first thought was, oh, so comedy's got like a few months left, and then you're gonna be like, nah, this isn't it.
But you know what's like crazy is that I've never felt like when I got frustrated with dance, I kept going because I knew I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Until I got to a point where it was clear that it was hindering my life rather than
benefiting you.
Yeah, my life.
Absolutely.
And I've always felt with comedy that we're really full circle in this bitch. But like I always feel like when
I'm landing the plane, I got this.
Yeah. Like when I bomb or when I have a bad writing day, I feel like I can't think of a punchline. I can't do anything. I'm still obsessed with comedy, and I never felt like that with dance. Like when I wanted to be done with dance, I was done with it. You know, and I would still have to go to school and go teach and stuff, but I was so sick of it. And with comedy, it's like even when I have a bad night, I'm still like I can't wait to go to the next mic.
Yeah, well, and also you've done dance your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So even if this was to turn into a dance situation, that's 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And by then, you know, God knows what could happen. I mean, you'll probably bomb a lot more now that you've upset the Wiccan community and they're going to curse you. But
they don't believe in podcasts. It's okay.
Okay. They don't? Are you being serious?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Because for the community out there, just remember, I didn't say anything bad. I have nothing but love for you.
Oh, no. There's nothing. No. There's nothing but love. I mean, people from all walks of life, I think, are are beautiful people, and it's just funny because it's one of those things where it's like you try to figure out who you are, and that's what everyone's trying to do.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, it's funny you say that because I mean everybody goes through it, and it was one of those things where I was in it, and I still didn't realize. I thought my whole life I was gonna play football. Mm-hmm. Because that's all, growing up, that's all, I was a chubby kid and I fucking got bullied and I used to play video games and I was anxious and I'd sit in my room all the time by myself because I didn't like to be around people. Mm-hmm. But my dad loved football and always talked about football. So when I got to the age where I could play football, I was just like, when I first started playing it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it because I was a fucking nerdy kid who got bullied a lot. Now I'm on the field getting the shit kicked out of me. Like, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But then I started getting stronger and bigger. Then I started hurting people. And then I was like, oh, I really like this now.
Brennan the Tank is coming to get you.
But I just thought this was my life.
Yeah.
And
totally.
it wasn't.
Totally.
Then, I got hurt in college and then I couldn't play anymore. And then I started drinking like crazy. And I was like, oh, this is my life. Like, this is what it's going to be. And then I thought, oh, I'll go to, I'll finish up school and I'll go to law school and I'll be a lawyer. But, like, even when I was in all those things, I was like, this isn't, I don't know. And I was doing comedy, around that time all the way up until now. And it wasn't until 3 years ago when I got rushed to the ER. And I've told that story on this podcast where I was just like, and I came out of it and I got sober and I was talking to my sponsor and I was like, I'm going to kill, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to, I'm going to meetings. I'm going to 2 jobs. I'm going to the gym 6 days a week for nothing. Cause you're talking about, I'm just floating now.
Right.
I had no purpose. And then that's when he had pointed out, get back into comedy. That's the one thing you love more than anything. Get back into comedy. Mm-hmm. And I did. And then that's when it clicked. And I was like, oh, this is it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's a feeling that comedy gives me that I have never felt in my entire life. And you're right about the burn. I don't know how you said it. Burn bright, burn something.
Yeah. Burn.
There's a lot of burning wick candle metaphors in this.
Burn
podcast.
bright. I keep
burn
talking
short, whatever.
Yeah.
But
quickly.
Because people have said that to me. They're like, oh, well, you've done so many things that you've quit before.
Burn bright and fast.
Burn bright and fast. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but who hasn't? Haven't you ever joined a club that you did for a little bit and then you were like, nah, this ain't it? You know what I mean? How many times have you had it? So many people have jobs that they've done for 2 or 3 years and then they were like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So that's not that's not a bad trait. That's just something that my mom went from being a swim coach to a dental assistant to a fashion dresser to a personal shopper and then was a firefighter for over a decade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's so weird, but your life has a way that it's going to go and you just have to trust that it's going to be okay.
Well, that's the thing too is I have people in my life where they did the safe thing. And that's just what they did. And, hats off to you. You got family you got to raise and everything like that. But it's like I couldn't, because I know how I felt when I was in the situation where I was doing the right thing, quote unquote. We'll call it the right thing. I was working. I was staying sober. I was going to the gym, taking care of myself. I didn't really have anyone in my life. This was, before I had met Savannah, and this was after my ex-fiance, Alyssa, had left. So I was just doing the next right thing. That's all I could focus on was just do the next right thing. And I wanted to fucking die.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this can't be it.
Yeah.
This can't be it.
Yeah.
And it's Savannah just read Valley of the Dolls, which is a really good book from the 60s. And she pointed something out to me, and it said, I think it said something like 90, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's 95% of people play it safe. Or no, 99% of people play it safe. And that's what the responsible thing is to play it safe.
Right.
But it's the 1% that gives the world its joy.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And I was like, oh shit. That's it's so smart to do the next right thing and to play it safe. But it's just like you're talking about. I never found any comfort in that. I never found any peace in that. The only time I feel good is what we're talking, not the only time, but one of the only times I feel like myself is when I'm sitting in the back of a room talking shit with comics about to go on stage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how the set goes. If it goes well, that's awesome. But it doesn't, because I say on stage all the time, I don't need everybody. I just need a few of you to connect
You
with
just need
this.
30%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30%. That's all I'll take.
30% is good. That's a good.
Oh, this was
percentage.
fun. Thank you so much for coming on, Morgan.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We're about to go do a show now. I forgot to do this up front, but plug everything. Because we got right into it when we
Oh,
started
that's a good
recording.
question. I know. Sorry, we were talking so much shit before I even got on
I
here.
know, and then we kept talking shit, and I was like, I'm gonna hit record
that's
now.
why we're friends. My username or my handle. See, I'm not from
dork.
this generation. It's Mama of Jokes, MAMA, not the weird way you Southerners spell it, MOMMA, Mama. It's Mama of Jokes on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the fun stuff. And then I do have some dates coming up. On January 2nd, I'll be at Lifted Spirits in Palatka.
That's a fun
That'll
show.
be
I've
a
done
fun,
that.
yeah, that'll be a fun one. And then I'm also doing Keg of Laughs in Gainesville on the 8th, and I believe the 22nd. And I will be doing Jackie Knight's Comedy Club open mic competition on the 15th, which is really exciting because I've never done a comedy club before, so I'm really excited. And then just kind of going around town, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Check her out, Morgan Gallo, Mama of Jokes on all social media. Again, thank you so much for listening, everyone. BrennanTComedy.com for all my upcoming dates. I got shows in Georgia, Jacksonville, South Florida, Daytona. Just check out the website. I got all the dates on there. Doing a drag show in January. That'll be fun. That's going to be in Jacksonville. Check that out. Comedians and drag doing comedy. It's a great show. I've done it before. I love that show. Anyway, Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Like I said, check out the website, BrennanTComedy.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays too. This will come out like 2 days before Christmas. So,
woohoo! Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Festivus for the rest of us.
Yes.
Talk to y'all next week.